Hi, today I want to talk about Fred Fiedler's contingency model of leadership, which was first introduced back in the 1960s, especially in his book, A Theory of Leadership Effectiveness in 1967. And his theory was actually had two parts to the theory itself, which was one was the leadership style and the other was a situation. So what makes a good leader? Fred had this great idea when we are looking at the leadership styles. How do we configure the leadership styles according to the situation in order to get the best performance from the leader? So his idea was to actually give this questionnaire, which was called the least preferred co-workers questionnaire, which was a bit bizarre if you think about it, because you had to pick someone you detest, you did not like, and you were supposed to find out what kind of leader by answering this questionnaire based on this person that you did not like. So it was kind of weird in that sense. So the LPC was actually something that was a way of determining the two types of leadership style that was given by Fiedler. So if your score is low, you were into task, i.e. you were into efficiency, you did not really care about emotions, you do not care about how your workers feel about you or anything like that. What your concern is efficiency, right? So if your score is high, however, you will be into a relationship, you're maintaining that kind of relationship between the leader and the follower. So if you were in the middle, that was the problem with the leadership style, because it was vague. So you had to fall into one or the other, otherwise you have to relinquish your leadership to someone who can take those two positions. So with having that in mind, once you establish what kind of leadership style that you are going to adopt here in terms of your idea, you would then take a look at the situation that is presented to you in that organization or company. The first being relationship, i.e. the trust, for example, between leaders and members. Right? How much trust do we have? Is it something that is mutual? And the second was the task. So the task was either something that is complex, or was it mundane, highly repetitive, for example. So looking at the situation, you would apply the kind of leadership style that was more suited for that thing. And the third one that the Fiedler gave was position of power. So how much did leaders have in terms of power when determining what kind of action that can be taken against members or followers? So these three elements then would then constitute the situations that are faced by the leaders of when using this kind of model or framework. So when we look now at the situation that is of the 21st century, when we have so many different kind of models in terms of leadership and the kind of theories that circle around leadership psychology, can it still work? And of course, I would say yes. The situation aspect of Fiedler's ideas are actually still applicable until today. Maybe not so the leadership styles, which are way too rigid. And when we look at how that's applied in terms of the situation, and let's take a look at two huge companies, Amazon and second one, Starbucks. Now, these two companies have the same characteristics. One is LMR very low, the situation in terms of animosity, the trust very low, very poor trust in terms of the workers there versus the leaders there. And this creates a lot of dissension. Yeah. And the second one is the task structure itself is highly repetitive, non-complex, and therefore the power that these line managers have very strong. They are able to fire and hire anyone they want because they think these people are not useful, right? So if you create trouble, you'll be fired on the spot. So that's the kind of power they have. So it's actually quite powerful. And recently, we now know that Amazon and Starbucks are very hostile to any kind of unions being made at these two organizations. So how can we help solve the situation? So the first thing, when we look at the LMR, right, the leader-member relation, we can restore those relationships based on the idea that we can avoid, regain those trust instead of confrontation all the time. It serves no purpose but create more dissension, creates more toxicity, and also reputation, right? So definitely something that the leadership of both companies can look at. The next is repetitive tasks. Even though they are repetitive, does not mean that the followers don't care, right? Or they don't have any kind of emotion. When we look at Amazon and Starbucks, highly repetitive work. They don't require complexity because everything has been broken down to small systematic steps. And of course, the third one, when we talk about position power, leaders need to stop that kind of action where it's punitive all the time, right? So when we look at the situations given, we can help reduce that and replace it with something a little bit more transformational. So Fiedler definitely has a point here, because back in the day in the 1960s, no one else took a look at the situation. So that kind of seminal work done by Fiedler is until today is actually impacted into many aspects of further newer leadership models that we see now. So we now know that every theory in the past actually enables the future of newer ones. And Fiedler's theory of situation especially really helps us understand how we can help understand the situation, applying those leadership styles in a much more flexible way, but also understanding what are the situations here, and can clearly see in those elements that we just saw just now. So ends my talk today. I hope you have enjoyed this talk. Thank you very much.